This interview has been conducted for St John Scotland 75 years of making a difference. My name is Dr Sue Morrison and the respondent is Ian Clarke. This is the 2nd of December 2021 and the interview is taking place in Stranraer. Thank you very much for agreeing to be interviewed for the project, Ian.
You're welcome.
For the record, would you please confirm your full name?
It's Ian George Clarke,
Thank you. And what is your age or just your year of birth?
1942.
Where were you brought up, Ian?
Brought up in Yorkshire, around Wakefield, Leeds, Bradford area. That's a long time ago. Been up here 20 years and love it. I won't go back.
Can you tell me a bit about your family, your birth family, when you grew up?
My parents both worked. My father was an engineer. My mother was in textiles, and I went to junior school, went to grammar school, and then I left school, applied to go to the Leeds City Police as a cadet, but it was so long-winded that my parents said, you're going to have to get a job, it's getting into September, and there was an apprenticeship going with Bradford Corporation as an engineer, so I went and joined them. 2 months after I'd been there, I got a letter from Leeds City Police saying that I've been accepted, I've passed everything, and so on, and could I join them? Which I wrote back and said, thank you very much, I'll continue my apprenticeship, which is what I did. And I worked my way through my apprenticeship and then became higher up in the management of Bradford Corporation, and later on I moved to Wakefield. I won't say because of the takeover in Bradford, but that's another story. And moved to Wakefield, and I went and joined West Yorkshire Police as a police mechanic. So I served 8.5 years as a police mechanic and got fed up with the shifts and being called out at all hours to accidents and things like that, murders and cover murders and so on and so forth, with the transport that had to be there for the murder. We had a big murder caravan which had to be transported to wherever these things happen. And it was Christmas Eve where I changed my mind that I wanted to try something different. I'd already taken a teacher certificate through the powers that be, and I started teaching night school. I was the first teacher of a women's car maintenance class, pure women car maintenance class, and I did several of those over the years. As I say, at the Christmas Eve I decided that I wanted something different. So I I was given a newspaper with an advert which wanted instructors for the government training centres. So I applied there, did the various tests over the next 2 months, and was accepted as an instructor and went to work at the Leeds Skill Centre. I did 11.5 years there as an instructor, then became a chief instructor and moved to Doncaster for my sins. I did 3 years at Doncaster, and while I was there I became a business development manager, going around talking to companies and talking about training and organising training sessions for the companies. Big companies like the glass companies and Bird's Eye Walls and Bird's Eye Bachelor Foods and Coca-Cola and Schweppes, and so I was then travelling all over the country. I moved back to Wakefield because Doncaster Centre closed. Maggie closed quite a few things. Working for the government as civil service. In '92 we were privatised. Maggie decided that the skill centres were going to be the first ones to be privatised, and she was thinking about privatising the whole civil service. If people can remember going back to them days, 92, 93, all the job centres came out of the back streets and became shop front establishments in towns, and that was the idea behind it all, to get it all privatised. But the civil service kicked up a big stink, and it didn't materialise, and they've now gone back to the back streets of the towns. Unfortunately, or fortunately, whichever way you want to look at it, the skill centres were still privatised, and at the time there were 64 centres up and down the country, training people in jobs and various trades. You name the trade, then the skill centre did it. one way or another. That was taken over by 3 senior civil servants who ran it, or tried to run it like the civil service, because they hadn't been in business, they'd been in civil service all their lives. Unfortunately, after 3 years it went belly up and it was all split up piecemeal. We were the centres that I worked at as a business development manager were taken over by the Clothing and Allied Products Industrial Training Board. So we had new management came in, and they bought 2 centres, one in Wakefield and one in Bradford. Much to my dismay, I told them not to buy Bradford or not to buy Wakefield, one or the other, and buy one somewhere further afield, because all the companies I was talking to was in that particular area. So which company do I put into which skill centre? It was difficult, and my loyalty was to Wakefield, obviously, because I've worked there for a number of years, and Bradford finally decided to close Bradford and just run Wakefield. So we did all sorts of training there, and engineering, management, forklift truck, electrical, electronics. We had tie-up with the gas board, and we did all the ACOPs for gas fitters and things like that, which I was involved in quite heavily. And then later on, I became the manager of the skill centre as time moved on and the managers moved on. And then on the latter year when I retired, I was asked to go back for 12 months as a director just to keep it running. And I left it in a very good position when I retired. So that is my background. I missed the camaraderie of the police when I left after 12 months, so I joined the specials, and I did 18.5 years as a special, becoming the divisional commandant for Pontefract division around that area. So I worked my way up through the ranks of the specials, and ran the whole area of Pontefract, Castleford, Normanton, Darlington, all that area there as a commander. And that's my working life. I've retired and I'm working as hard now as I do when I worked. Because we have also small holding, so I've got sheep, I've got ducks, I've got hens, and then I'm heavily involved in a classic car syndrome, and also the bowls, so I enjoy bowling. And yes, keep myself busy, that's for sure.
Thank you, that's amazing. And it's also amazing that I know everywhere where you work. Could you tell me when you first heard of St John Scotland?
I'd been up here about 3 years, and I was talking to a chap, Adam, who used to be one of the organisers for all the transport, and he lives in Leswalk, does Adam. And I was talking to him, and he said, you like driving? I said, yeah, all my life I've done driving. And he said, would you like to go with me to Glasgow, to the Gart Naval Hospital? I said, well, yeah. He says, well, it's just, and he told me about the organisation. So I went with him, with a client, and he said, would you like to be a driver? So I started then. I think I've been 12 years I've been driving, so yes, and thoroughly enjoy it, and thoroughly like talking to people, and having had the problems that a lot of people that I take up have had, I can relate to them and I can talk to them and put them at ease as to what they're going to go through when they get to the hospital, like the radium treatment and that sort of stuff, because I've been through it, so it helps.
I'm sorry to hear that, Ian.
No, I'm fine, 100%. No, 100%.
Do you think it does help that you've got that personal lived history?
I think it does. I think that you can relate to people's anxieties more because you've gone through the anxieties. When you were told, well, the first operation I had, I was told if I'd have left it a fortnight, they wouldn't have been able to do anything for me. It was that close, because the type of cancer I had was doubling in size every 24 hours. So I was seen by the doctor on the Friday, I was in hospital on the Sunday, I was operated on the Monday. It was as quick as that, but that was in Yorkshire, not up here. and then I've had it in my neck since I've been up here. And I'm touch wood. I'm fine.
Good.
Kidori. I check up every 3 months and everything's okay. But yes, I believe you can talk to people because you know what their fears are to some degree, and especially if it's the first time going up to have treatment or what have you, then you can relate to what the problems are. And I find that, yeah, it's easy to talk to people and put them at ease doing that way.
You've been driving cancer patients for a long time now. So pre-COVID, did you at that point take additional passengers as well as the patients? Could you explain that to me?
Yeah, well, a lot of the people, either the mother or the daughter, whoever had the disease, would go with them as a support, or the husband, or the wife would go with the husband, and the husband would go with the wife. And it was a big support for the people. And nowadays, because of COVID, we're not allowed to take them. Then it's very lonely for somebody who's going up there for the first time, or going up for treatment, or going for an operation, or whatever it is, to be on their own when they get there. So usually I help them with the baggage and everything if they're stopping and so on. So yes, I think it's a lot better if a relative or a friend or whatever can go with them to support them when they're there. It's highly unlikely that I've taken somebody up and just brought the husband or the wife back. It has happened, but it's on a very rare occasion is that where the person's actually gone into hospital, then the relative hasn't gone with them in that case. But when they do, then I bring the person back to the hospital down here and they find their own way home, of course. Sometimes we'll pick them up from the home, depends on where they live, and drop them back off at the home. It's a location situation. So other than that, we meet them at the hospital and pick them up from there, because that's where the cars are stationed.
What kind of pickup area have you got?
The whole of the Maccas, the whole of Stranraer area. So we go down to, well, they come from Whitton, they come from Wigtown, they'll come from Newton Stewart, and around right up to, how can I say, probably Cairn Ryan and a bit higher up there from there. So it's a big area that we do pick up from. I know Newton Stewart have got their own vehicle down there now, which is good. But Castle Douglas, I've picked up people from Castle Douglas. In the early days, we had the run on a Monday morning from Stranraer to Castle Douglas to Newton Stewart and then down to Dumfries. And the people used to catch a bus, well, a coach, from the hospital. I think it was a 12-seater ambulance, but they said it was a shocking drive up to Edinburgh when they had to do that. So we had to be down at Dumfries for 9 o'clock because the bus left at 9ish to go up to Edinburgh, and that was patients who were going in for the week. And then the bus would bring them back to Dumfries, and then St John's would pick them up and bring them back to the various places that needed to be dropped off at. But that ceased, and the taxi firm took over, which seems a bit ridiculous to all the people who were in St John's, because it's very expensive getting a taxi to take people backwards and forwards. I think it's £300 to Edinburgh or something like that. It's and if there's, before COVID, if there was, 4 people, then they used 2 taxis, because they won't put 3 in the back. They only have 2 in the back and 1 in the front. And became very expensive for the National Health Service, which is, for us within St John's, said, well, it's, somebody's got a blind spot in their eyesight somewhere. But that's the way of life, isn't it? And the contracts go out from wherever somebody thinks they might get the best. But so the best is St John's.
Is it still the case then that taxi drivers take?
They do use the taxi drivers sometimes, yes they do, still do, yes, yeah.
And do they use St John's as well?
Yes, but not as often as they used to do. We don't seem to be out. We're out most days, but we don't seem to be doing that nowadays. No, I think St John's is one of the biggest charities that's working very, very well for the community around, and certainly for cancer patients, and they need it, you know. They do.
Could you tell me which sites are the drop-off areas over the years?
You name a hospital and it's been there. Ayr, Kilmarnock, they've even been known down to go as far as Carlisle at one place, and across to Newcastle early days, when it was when I first joined, but mainly Glasgow and Edinburgh now. Ayr, Glasgow and Edinburgh, that's sometimes Kilmarnock or Irvine, and Dumfries, of course. Dumfries is the one, but those are about the ones now that we do.
When you first started, can you remember what kind of hours you worked?
I could leave home at 6:30, pick a patient up at 7 o'clock, go up to Edinburgh for an 11 o'clock appointment, or 10 o'clock or 10:30 appointment, it depended, and I could be there while 4 or 5 at night until the treatment's finished, then bring them back home. So I could be getting home at 8:30 at night, and sometimes recently it's been like that, because when they get there they don't know how long it's going to be. Well, I don't know how long it's going to be, so I take a book and I read it. As long as the canteen and stuff, I can get a cup of tea and something to eat, then that's fine, and that's what I do. But I tell them, you know, don't worry about time. Time's irrelevant when I drop them off. If it takes all day, it takes all day, and that's it. That's as simple as it is. Some people can't take the treatment, or they start to take the treatment and they have problems, so they're delayed, so they've got to stop it and then start it again. It all depends on what they're doing and what it is. If it's radium treatment, then that's fairly quick. So you're there about 2 or 3 hours at the most. But if it's chemo, then it can be a long time, which it has been. But I've been getting home at 8:30, 9 o'clock at night, from 7 o'clock in the morning. But that doesn't matter. It's part of the past. I see it part and parcel of the job. I've never, ever, in all my working life, clocked on and clocked off at the right time. Ever. Never known it. You know.
How many journeys a month would you say that you did?
Originally, probably 2 to 3 a month, but nowadays it's probably 2 a month. Yeah, I should be doing one. I should have been doing one on Saturday, but unfortunately, I'm away. I can't do it. So, but yeah, and I should have done one last week. Well, I should have done one on Tuesday, but I came back from. I'd been down in Yorkshire, and because of all the winds and that sort of stuff, I drove back on the Monday, and David, a friend of mine who was actually belongs to this church, said he'd do it instead of me. So David McCallum did it, and that's how we work it. You know, Will is brilliant at organising. He is brilliant. Yeah.
Without giving me any names, could you tell me about some of the patients that you've transported?
I've transported people who had mental problems as well, and ages range from I think 40 up to 80, even older. All various types of the disease, from prostate to liver to kidneys to stomach to breast cancers to melanomas. It's all been, you know, right across the board. There's been nothing that's one set problem, you know. And you can't say that I've taken ladies up with and they've all had breast cancer, because they haven't. You know, it's all been hit and miss. And, what the problem is with them. Yeah.
What's the demeanour when they're in the car?
Some never shut up. Some fall asleep. Most of them are very pleasant and want to talk, you know, and they want to talk about. A lot of them want to talk about their illness and try and get it out. And then they ask. Once I say, well, you know, I know what you're going through. Don't think I'm. Then they start to relax a bit more, and they start talking about the problems and what they've got and so on and so forth. So yes, I've had one where he wouldn't sit up, he wouldn't sit with the seatbelt on, he laid on the back seat all the time. He had to lay down, and he had mental problems, obviously, you know. But fine, okay. You know, I didn't say to him, unless you sit up, I'm not taking you. I just said, right, okay, you'll lay down on the back seat, but just hold tight, you know. And he went to the back seat and he fell asleep. We arrived at Edinburgh as and when for his treatment, and I left him there. It was a case of he was going in, you know, he was going in for a week. So there are all types of walks of life, every type of walk of life, and they all have the same fears.
How much do you think they appreciate what you do as a driver?
Oh, I think it's 100% they appreciate. There's nobody I've taken that haven't appreciated the service. Nobody, you know. Never had a bad word, or it's always been positive and always been it's brilliant. And what, you know, how much do I owe you? And I say, you don't owe me anything, you know. It's free. Oh, well, what do I do? And how do I get a donation? And so I tell them to get in touch with Willie or Liz, and they can take it from there. They'll give me an envelope with something in, and I'll leave it in the pocket of the car, and I'll ring Willie when I get back and say, Willie, come down to the car, there's some money in, or there's an envelope in it. Pick the envelope up and deal with it. But no, I think it's 100%, quite honestly. And if we have an event, St John's event, it's usually well attended. It is.
You give an awful lot. What do you get out of this?
It's a bit like job satisfaction, for want of a better word. When you do something that's been good, then you've got that satisfaction of you've done something good. You know, you've helped somebody or taken the fears away in some degree as to what's likely to come and so on. Some you know very well that it's just a means to an end, and unfortunately quite a lot of the people I've taken are no longer here. And you become friends with some that you take on a regular basis, and in fact I took one chap up about 6 times and I've become friendly with his wife, you know. Not friendly that way, but she works in town and I see her and she talks every time and we have a good laugh and so on. But, he's no longer with us, you see, but and you do build up the rapport. And I can be walking around Morrison's and somebody will go, oh no, are you all right? You know, you took me up to Glasgow, you took me to Edinburgh. And I think, oh did I? All right, because you see them once, you don't remember the faces, and especially now with COVID, where you've got a mask on all day, you know, all the time. But yes, I think it gives you that job. It's a job satisfaction. Quite honestly, it is. That's the best way to describe it.
Do you ever take it home at the end of the day?
No. No, once I've packed the car up, I go home and that's it. No.
Very healthy.
Yeah, well, you have to do that when I worked with the police, you say. I mean, I couldn't start going home thinking, well, I'll tell him what I've done and so on and so forth, especially when you've got accidents that you're going to where there's people maimed and people are killed and so on and so forth. You need to leave it at work. You can't start taking it home. No, I don't take it home at all. No.
Just going back to the service, what does St John Scotland supply?
They supply a sort of tunic. They supply shirts and a jacket, a sweatshirt, and yellow jackets and so on and so forth. You've got a big coat, a big yellow visible coat, and then you've got a vest as well. And they supply the car, of course. In the early days, when we'd only one car, it could be down in Dumfries, and Willie's rung me up and said, you know, can you take a patient to whatever? And I've used my own car. And in some cases the Wolsey, the old car, and people have been absolutely delighted to go in that to the hospital in that, you know. But no, yes, so they supply most things. In fact, everything you want, they'll supply. Really, you've only got to ask, and if you think that you need it, they'll supply it. No problem.
How much do you know about the Order of St John?
Not a lot, really, other than I know Dr. John, I understand, started it in Scotland, and his wife is still about, fortunately. Yeah. But Dr. John started it all, and I think at first they started doing renal and as well as the cancer. And then it stopped, the renal stopped because of several problems we're having with patients in the renal side. And it was decided to just do cancer patients. And unfortunately Dr. John, I believe he opened a eye hospital in Jerusalem, and they went across there to check it and see it was going all right and everything, and unfortunately had a massive heart attack over there. Oh, yes, it was a heart attack, and he died. So that was a big traumatic event for us all around here, because he was part of this church as well. So we knew Dr. John personally, and it come as a shock to everybody, I think, that happened with him. But I understand that he's the one that started it all off and set it going. But other than that, I don't. It's just something that or something that I work for or give me time to. Not particularly work, because I don't find it work driving. Because I drive the wheels off a car, my parents used to say, and still do. I was down in Yorkshire last week, and I'm going down tomorrow. I'm taking somebody down to Bradford tomorrow. Yes, I can keep driving and driving. Love it.
I think that's most of my questions. Is there anything you would like to add?
Not particularly so, no. It's, I enjoy doing what I do, otherwise I won't do it. But I'm getting to that stage probably next year or what have you. They might be saying, well, thank you very much, it's time for you to go. I don't know. We'll see. But, yeah.
Actually, just on that point, do you have to take driving tests to be a St John's driver?
No. That you go with one of the members to see what you like. And usually it's really see what your driving's like. I mean, obviously, we've had one or two people in the past, I believe, that have had to be released, and so on and so forth. But no, it's as long as you've got a full licence and you've got, St John's insure you for it all and everything, so, no problems at all.
What would you say to anyone thinking about possibly volunteering with St John's Scotland?
The best thing they could do. It really is the best thing they can do, and they get a lot out of it. A lot of benefits out of it for themselves. Meeting people and understanding some of their problems, and then feeling that you've done something worthwhile to help somebody is I don't know, a joy, in want of a better word, is a joy. So anybody that can drive and can drive safely and properly, then it's the biggest worthwhile cause that's going, the biggest charity that's going, that they can help to see something at the end of it. Where if you're manning a table selling Macmillans or what have you, then you do it because you want to do it, but I don't think there's any job satisfaction out of it. Where with St John's there is a satisfaction that you've helped somebody, because they couldn't get to the hospital without it. It would be very difficult. I mean, can you imagine catching a train from here and going to Glasgow? It's a nightmare, taxis. And I know people have been on taxis and it's cost them a lot of money, a lot of money. But no, best thing since sliced bread, as they say.